Hey guys, Bloodcat7 here. Okay, it is Sunday, May 5th, 2019, and I want to thank you for visiting the Stonewall Research channel here on YouTube. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and if you could hit the like button, guys, that would be great. Help support the channel and the material we present on the channel. Okay guys, well, I have a presentation for you about Malta today, and it sort of comes on the heels of the video that I did recently about the Azores, okay, and about this postgraduate student from Portugal, this archaeological student, and her work there, which was just fascinating. I mean, if you like part one, you might have not seen part two. That's where the real meat is, and all the research that this lady did. It was sort of a hero who fought the system, got permission from the Portugal government, even though they had determined from a panel that there was no previous habitation before the Portuguese arrived there on the Azores. But, you know, this lady knew it was not true, that there was far older civilization there, habitation there, thousands and thousands of years before they even got there. So, in any case, this is about a cover-up, you know, by, you know, Maltese archaeologists, whoever in the archaeological community was concerned with this. And an article by this lady who wrote this book, Sirius, the star of the Maltese temples. And she's got her own YouTube channel here, you know, discusses her book in this one video that was TV Malta, and she was interviewed, I guess, for the production, and she speaks English, so just listen to what she has to say, and we'll go through the article. It's quite lengthy, so let's try to get through it here, but listen to what the lady has to say. Okay.
My book challenges the dates given to the temples by archaeologists, that's obvious. Therefore, I expect a mixed response. In Holland, it has been very positively reviewed. But since it was published, until now, it has been totally ignored in Malta. It seems to touch a raw nerve. But I believe that when the general public gets to know the book, they will love it. Because it gives back to Malta its rightful place, its rightful pride of place, I would say, in human cultural history. And in the academic world, this will take time, because they lean on dates arrived at by radiocarbon dating. But with this technique, you cannot date stone directly. There is no time here to go into the details, but part one of my book presents a wealth of evidence to show that for the past century there has been a systematic attempt to keep the dates of the Maltese temples as young as possible, so that Crete could be called the cradle of civilization. When radiocarbon dating of materials found inside the temples proved that they were much older than that, and than had been proclaimed here, then the next move was to insist that the Maltese temples were an isolated phenomenon outside the mainstream of human cultural development. But open-minded researchers will discover in my book a mass of evidence to the contrary.
Okay, so anyway, that's just a little part of this lady's video. I'll post a link to it in the description and at the end of the video here, and you can take a look at it yourself, okay? So we're going to get into the article. Like the lady, you know, from Portugal with the Azores, this lady is just an independent researcher. She's not an archaeologist. She didn't go to school for it, but she's an independent researcher. Very smart lady, came up with her own conclusions about it, wrote this book about it, Sirius, the star of the Maltese temple. As you know, Sirius is the brightest star in the sky. Used for navigation, it all predict certain things, times of year, weather, it's all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of stuff on it, and I'm sure you've seen lots and lots of stuff on the Maltese temples, and, you know, sort of alternative research done on about it close to with the skeletons that were found there, large tombs, large skeletons that seem to have disappeared, like all the skeletons from the Northeast here and in the United States, where all these skeletons have disappeared. Just odd that all these skeletons disappear for some reason, and you have this lady talking about a cover-up here. So, you know, I was looking at these temples in Malta, not only this one right here, okay, which she features in her book, but And, you know, I think, you know, Sylvie on the New Earth channel goes over Malta, Klaus Dona does. I think even Brian Forster. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on it, but this lady has the most current research, and that was what I was looking at. I was looking for the most current research on Malta. Okay, before you even start getting into all that other stuff, I was just looking into the current research, and I came up with this lady and her book and the article about it that I found. You know, I was looking at this right here, okay, and I couldn't help but notice here, all right, this sort of megalithic standing stone with this small hole in it there like that, and how it sort of resembles this, the Amazon Brazilian Stonehenge and the one in Armenia there with these holes. Looks like it would fit in right there in Malta, don't you? And maybe those large hominids, or like the museum out by Lovelock Cave likes to say, the you know, more robust, slightly more robust people, maybe the same identical people who would be found in the Northeast, who built the stone walls and everything else. We don't know, you know, or the people who were here in South America, you know, just the possibilities are endless because we don't know the past. And here's the problem with current mainstream anthropology and archaeology. Instead of letting the evidence speak for itself, okay, and adjust the narrative accordingly with the new findings to update it, whatever it is, instead what they often try to do is they try to make the data fit into a preconceived notion of what the past is, what they learned in brainwashing academy when they were taught what to think and not how to think on their own. You don't want people thinking on their own. That's why they come up with these things. That's why the lady had so many problems there in Portugal, because they had a panel that more or less ruled, like some sort of court, that there was no habitation there in the past before they got there in the 15th century. Okay, so in any case, let me get through this article for you because it's long and I want to try to get through it. Now look at this, guys. Here's one of the main temples here, the biggest one. And look, you know, I think a lot of people are going to automatically assume their knee-jerk reaction is some sort of decorative element on these, but I don't believe that that's what it is. I think all these drill holes, pock marks, even though you can make your own patterns, if you look at it long enough, you can make all kinds of patterns out of it. But I think this was applied here for stucco, okay, or some sort of concrete stucco, plaster stucco, whatever it is, all right? And this is a way of securing the stucco to the surface, okay? Similar to that, when we apply things like paint to the surface of metals, we have to score it first so it can adhere to something. Otherwise, it's just going to flake off. So I think that's what it is. So I put it out there to you guys. Tell me what you think it is. That's what I think it is. Almost, I'm 99% certain that that's what it was, okay? Before we even get into this article with this lady, all right? All right, let's get into it. All right, hold your horse, I got it right here. Okay, it's from December 2018, cover up. Very early human presence in Malta has been intentionally hidden. Owing to fluctuations in the Earth's temperatures, the sea levels all over the world. Okay, this is about the Ice Age. I'm not going to read about this. We all know about the Ice Age. I say it's baloney. You have a video on my channel debunking the Ice Age. I might post it in here. She's trying to account for the lower sea levels and how people might have crossed over a land bridge from Sicily over to Malta and all this kind of stuff. So look, here's my theory about it, all right? Before the cataclysm or series of cataclysms, the sea level was low, whatever it was, and that's the way it was. It didn't go up and down with the ice collecting at the top of the earth. It was Ice Age is all baloney, okay? It was just low, okay? We got water from somewhere else. It has a lot to do with the Thunderbolts project research. I'm not going to get into it now, but water came from somewhere else, even produced out of the earth, like the Bible says, even though it's, you know, we Forget about what it is, okay? But water came out of the earth. Well, that could have been due to an electrical process, due to interplanetary electrical arcing discharge. Okay, let's get into it here. Okay, I'll read more or less after that part. The first humans reached Sicily about 24,000 years ago, they say, at the height of the last ice age, baloney, when this land bridge between Malta and Sicily existed. The distance between the southeastern point of Sicily and Malta is also 80 kilometers, 49.7 miles. People living in Sicily who wanted to go to the part of land now called Malta could walk it in a few days. That was one option. Okay, ancient seafaring in the Mediterranean. However, the earliest evidence for seafaring in the world has been found in the Mediterranean area. Crete in the Aegean has been an island for the past 5 million years and has never been connected to any other landmass in human history. Yet, as many as 2,000 stone tools, among them hand axes of the lower Paleolithic type, have been found in its southwestern shore in a context which was dated to be at least 130,000 and possibly even 190,000 years old. Humans who made these tools could only have reached Crete by boat. The New York Times, in its report on the findings, quoted archaeologists and experts who were astounded, okay? Archaeologists and experts who were astounded. Well, that's because whatever narrative they were going by before was junk, was crap, it was nonsense, okay? That's why they were always astounded at these things, because whatever it is that they were taught is nonsense, and when they discovered the real things out there, like, huh? What? What happened? You know? So, the discovery appeared to show that these surprisingly ancient mariners had craft sturdier and more reliable than rafts. They also must have had the cognitive ability to conceive and carry out repeated water crossing over great distances in order to establish sustainable populations producing an abundance of stone artifacts, and including food from the mainland. They like to say that these are earliest evidence of people without agriculture. They didn't need agriculture because they got it from the mainland through trade. Okay? That's my theory about it, all right? If seafaring in the Mediterranean has been attested to go back to these incredible remote times, we must safely assume that humans could reach Malta from Sicily easily, either on foot or by boat or from even further afield. Okay, which includes, you know, food, bringing food back and forth over there, agriculture, but just not there. All right, and they show, you know, she's talking about the land bridge because of the ice age or whatever. So just think about land bridge there, no ice age, just lowered sea levels, and then water got added later on somehow. All right, it's possible. Won't go into it now. All right, evidence for Paleolithic humans in Malta. Paleolithic human presence in Malta was once generally accepted as an established fact by both local and foreign researchers. The compelling proof for it was found in two fossilized teeth with fused roots, called taurodont, quote unquote, in the literature, attributed to Neanderthal humans and unearthed in 1917 by the Maltese paleontologist Giuseppe Despot. They were excavated in a cave of Gardalam in the south of Malta, in a layer which contained no pottery but flint and obsidian scrapers instead. So here's the teeth. You can see in the legend there's the centimeters. They're rather large teeth. And you've seen this, and maybe you've watched some videos on the quote-unquote giants, large hominids, whatever you want to call them, all right, where they go into this. Close Donna, I believe, goes into the south. These are extremely large teeth. Even if they say they're Neanderthals, and Neanderthals were bigger somehow, or whatever. People of a different morphology, different phenotype, whatever it is. She doesn't go into that there. She's just talking about the find. All right. About Paleolithic peoples being there, which is not what mainstream believe. Okay? And didn't believe and doesn't believe. Okay? So she's, you know, alternative researcher. The compelling proof, okay, I read all that stuff. They were excavated in a cave of Gardalam in the south of Malta, in a layer which contained no pottery, flint, and obsidian scrapers. A third tooth with the same characteristics was found in 1936 by his fellow countryman J.G. Ballacchino. The thorough investigations of the cave were dynamic and in experienced hands. In those glorious pre-war decades, Malta was famous among experts all over the world for its ancient temples as well as its Paleolithic remains, among which humans were still assigned their rightful place. okay? Covering up the early human presence in Malta. War in 1939 brought an end to all research into Malta's Paleolithic past. While enemy action took its toll among the many antiquities on the islands, none of this compares to the setbacks received by the introduction immediately after the war of a total revision of the story of Malta's remote past. Okay, and I think in this photo you can see, looks to me like a hippopotamus skull of some sort, or some other animal that's sort of like it, and some other sort of animal. They found them eating these things in the Paleolithic times. One step in achieving this was to eliminate from all future publications any reference to an ice age presence of man in Malta. Instead, the narrative of Malta's settlement by a group of Neolithic farmers in around 5200 BC was introduced, accepted, and then cast in stone. By consensus, guys. That's how these things get cast in stone, by consensus. Okay, they vote on it. It's their favorite one. Whatever theory suits them, they vote on it, and if there's a majority, that's what's accepted, okay? The guys who didn't vote for it, okay, you never hear about them, and if they try to say anything about it, they're blacklisted and bad-mouthed and everything else. Okay, as he talks about it here. How it has been possible that this version of history has been accepted in Malta for so long is seen, in retrospect, a mystery. Nor is it easy to understand why any broader view, no matter how carefully researched, has been received with such implacable resistance ever since. Human presence can be detected in several ways. Firstly, there are skeletal remains which give us a direct indication. Secondly, artifacts and art made by humans are equally direct proofs of their having been on the scene. Thirdly, and most overlooked, excuse me, in our Maltese context, there are traces of human activity which point indirectly yet unambiguously to their presence. Although they are indications by inference, they are in no way less important. They include heaps of carcasses and body parts of edible animals, large or small, skeletal remains of animals found in locations that do not normally constitute their habitat, such as elephants, deers, or swans in a cave, a fissure, or a surface gap. Heaps of broken seashells in landlocked situations, bones, especially long bones, broken to extract the marrow, signs of violent impact on skeletal parts, such as elephant tooth broken in half with stones still stuck in a jaw. All of these instances, the smoking gun, so to speak, that any detective would dream of, have been reported in Malta by various investigators at times when curiosity and research still had a free hand. Okay? The cave paintings of Gar Hassan. Okay, it is the cave of Gar Hassan. Hidden in the cliffs along the south coast of Malta, about 2 kilometers, 1.2 miles west of Marsaklak Bay, there is a cave system which bears the name of Gar Hassan. With its large scenic entrance overlooking the sea at the height of 70 meters, Gar Hassan used to be a tourist attraction. Today, the area surrounding the access to the cave has been fenced off. Before this happened, it was possible to walk along a footpath towards the cliff's edge. Here, a flight of steps and a narrow rock-cut walkway with a rusty railing offered a token of security led along steep cliff face to the mouth of the cave. At its entrance, Gar Hassan is a tunnel running straight into the rock. For the first 20 meters or so, it is pleasantly spacious. Its large triangular entrance offers a beautiful sea view and allows enough light for one to find a way over the irregular cave bottom. Straight ahead, the cave becomes narrower and lower. At this point, an iron gate blocks the way. Excuse me. Side passages open up from the main gallery, most of which soon come to a dead end. But a larger one branches off to the right and winds its way through the rock in an easterly direction parallel to the cliff face outside. A torch is needed here. After about 50 meters, 164 feet, it broadens into a room with an opening to the sea. From here, the narrow tunnel continues for another 70 meters, 229.7 feet, until it ends in a man-made round chamber with a stone bench around its wall. Here, too, a window-like opening allows a lovely sea view. This, according to legend, was the room in which fugitive Saracen slave by the name of Hassan lived long ago. In this cave system, the world-renowned expert on rock art, Professor Emanuele Anati, discovered cave paintings on one of his visits to Malta in the late 1980s. And here's the cave paintings. Red ochre cave paintings. Very interesting stuff. Okay, I'd like to see more. But they don't apparently let people in there. Okay, here too, okay. Discovered cave paintings in the late 1980s. They consisted of animal forms, handprints, and ideograms in red and black colors. Having been covered by a thin layer of mineral deposits left by stalagmitic drippings over the ages, the images were faint but visible to the trained eye. They were photographically recorded at the time of their discovery. Okay, this is the example of the red ochre spiral cave paintings in the Hypogeum. Anati donated his manuscript with color photos dated 1989 to the library of the Archaeological Museum in Valletta. He writes, many of the images are not very clear and partially covered by incrustations, for which reason their systematic detection is quite difficult. However, it was possible to establish that stylistic, associative, graphic, and conceptual models reflect a layer dating to the Hunters period before the Neolithic, never before reported in Malta, if they were hunters and all that kind of stuff. That's pure speculation on their part. Surprisingly, among the animal figures, there have been identified some that seem to represent elephants, animals which, as it was commonly believed, would have been extinct in the archipelago towards the end of the Paleolithic, even before rising sea levels separated the Maltese islands from Sicily. The date of this geological episode is not definite, and there are different hypotheses, although all scholars agree that the episode occurred before 12,000 years ago. Okay, so take from that what you want. Okay, sounds a bit dubious to me. Okay, the different hypotheses, they're not in agreement, it's not definite, all this stuff. In the course of the 1990s, after these finds have been published, the paintings seem to have disappeared from the cave wall. Oh boy. Let me read that again. In the course of the 1990s, after these finds have been published, the paintings seem to have disappeared from the cave wall. Can you believe that? They probably went in there and erased it. The photographs taken during and shortly after the discovery may be the only reminders that they ever existed. The bull fresco of the Hypogeum. Another example of ancient Maltese cave art would meet the same fate as the rock paintings of Gar Hassan. It concerns the fresco of a bull inside the ancient underground temple at Hal Saflieni, known as the Hypogeum. The fresco was discovered in the 1950s and photographs of it were taken. It was also duly noted and recorded by archaeologist David Trump in his 1971 book, Malta, an Archaeological Guide. Okay, so more history erased. The painting was carried out in black manganese oxide, so that's the temple at the Hypogeum. Alright, beautifully carved stuff. Okay, you telling me these are Paleolithic people? Or Neolithic people? I mean, looks a bit advanced to me. For people who are just, running around in loinskins, killing meat and eating meat and drinking blood. Okay, and no vegetables or fruit. The painting was carried out in black manganese oxide, a substance typically used in Paleolithic cave art. According to Mythsud, both the application of this paint and the style of the bull pointed strongly to a pre-Neolithic date of this part of the Hypogeum, okay? He recounts that in the late 1980s, experts from the UNESCO took samples of the paint and the test would have confirmed a Paleolithic age. The fresco of the bull today no longer exists in the Hypogeum wall. Some years ago, a staff member at the Hypogeum personally told me that one day during the 1990s, when the monument was closed for refurbishment, he was ordered to take a bucket of water and brush to clean that part of the wall. The reason given to him for this order was that the wall had accumulated mold and needed to be washed. As far as I've been able to establish, reference to the bull fresco has disappeared from all the publications except for the 2010 reprint of David Trump's above-mentioned guide from 1971. When he was asked during a group excursion in 2008 to the Hypogeum why the bull fresco was not mentioned in his recent works, Trump replied, "It was very faint." So, here's a guy who's learning how to shut his mouth so he could go on doing his work or whatever, and he won't be, ridiculed by mainstream and everything, those dirt bags, okay, the Alice Herdlishkas of our time who suck, okay, keeping the history from us, omitting it, whatever they're doing, altering it, changing it, giving all kinds of cockamamie explanations that don't make any sense. They forgot to check with other disciplines. You know how it goes. The hand axe found in Camino. A few years ago, I was introduced to a Gozitin diver and tour boat owner, Tony Lautier, who wanted to show me some finds. On the table in his garage were several objects on display. They were all of stone, among them small pebble-sized pieces of black obsidian covered with a patina, revealing their considerable antiquity. There was also a larger stone, rougher and much paler in color. It was a wedge-shaped, somewhat oval, tapering to one side. As Lautier held it up to show it to me, his hand fit snugly around it. The stone appeared to have been slightly shaped so that its third and ring fingers rested in shallow hollows cut along one of its long sides. Although these made the object fit perfectly in his hand, this feature alone would not prove anything. But the tip of the implement had been broken off. It had been clearly used as a tool, and the patina on its broken surface showed that this had not happened recently. Okay? The object is made of the hard coralline limestone, which occurs all over the Maltese Islands. It has the size and shape of a primitive hand axe, such as those to have been made by Neanderthal humans. The implement was found along the water's edge of the beach of San Nicolau Bay in Camino, therefore in an unstratified context. Okay, so again, it's very difficult to do the stratification analysis along a seashore because the water is constantly washing up, doing all kinds of things, storms, this, that, the other thing. So it's difficult to determine stratification, archaeological stratification from oceans, around oceans. It's a lot easier to do it from freshwater source. Okay. And, guys, I forgot to show this, but the temples here are mostly made of this hard coralline limestone, okay? The temples themselves are made from this harder limestone. And all this rock that seems to be added later on is a different kind of limestone, a Globigerina limestone. It's very soft. Okay, but the harder limestone, much harder, and that's why the walls are built with that. But all this other stuff that was added on is much, much softer. Okay. All right. So. Okay, so you just say, she says that the primitive tool is once have been used as a hand axe or stone hammer by the evidence, by the archaeological evidence. Okay, that goes so far back, she's saying, 7200 BC, but, you can't date stone like she said, so. Parallel canals on the seafloor. Now, here's the thing that I have to comment on and run out of time here, but let me try to get it. In recent decades, Maltese professionals from the diving community have gone to great lengths to investigate the sea bottom all around the islands. In spite of the skepticism they invariably had to put up with, all these surveys have been carried out at their own expense for the pure love of the history of their country. During one of these diving expeditions, Kurt and Sean Arrigo, diving school owners from Sliema in Malta, while searching for temple ruins under the sea, found some very interesting man-made features of another nature in the process. Off the northeast coast of Malta, in the area around St. George's Bay, large canals have been discovered parallel to each other as clear indication they must have been made by man. They were found 8 to 10 meters, 26 to 32 feet below sea level, indicating they must have been made a minimum of 8,000 years ago, which means that they are Neolithic at the latest. So if they're undersea 8,000 years ago, the water was lower than that prior to that. Okay, that was well after the Ice Age. Although they resemble the mysterious cart ruts that can be found all over the land surface of Malta and Gozo, Sean Arrigo made it clear that they are much larger and deeper than the ruts on land. So maybe, okay, these guys who are not professional archaeologists or underwater archaeologists or anthropologists or anything, they're just these divers who found these ruts here. As you can see in this picture here, there's one large one here, smaller one here. They're not even, but they're ruts in the bottom there that travel for a distance, okay? But they're not taking into account how things erode underwater. They don't erode in the same way as things that are exposed to the air and